I'm going to give you a quick introduction to the Urban Nature Project, which has been an eternity in the making, probably 5 years worth of discussions. It is now moving ahead very quickly, which is very much focused on how we can, through science, through engagement and education, best support that connection with nature and the development of green spaces in urban areas so they work maximally for both people and the wildlife. And we've heard some of these themes already. So it's part of a new phase of work here at the museum, which is really looking at how we can kind of leverage our position, if you like, our research, our engagement in particular, and visitors, to really tackle as tangibly as we can the big climate and ecological crises and the interlinked crisis we're facing. One of the ways we're doing this is really focusing on what we're calling advocates for the planet. So it's focused on the fact that everyone has a part to play in solving these crises. It can't be left to the corporates, to governments, to individuals. We need to be working together, which is complicated, but won't be news to any of you in the room. And the way we're doing this, just very briefly, is through something called the audience advocate model, which is really looking at how we can inspire, inform, and empower as an institution. So support people from different sectors of society and so on to have that connection with their local nature, understand their role and their place within nature and how nature shapes our lives now and in the future, and then have the agency to act in support of nature. So that could be through scientific research that informs scientific tools that people can adopt, or through education engagement approaches. So that's the kind of model we're working on. And the Urban Nature Project is our first big project at the museum as part of this new phase of working, which is far more outward looking from us as an organisation. So what we're doing is we're working with a partnership across the UK and many other individual groups and community groups and local organisations that aren't on this map as well, to really look at how we can act together to support nature within the UK's towns and cities, but in a way that benefits us and nature at the same time, which brings in the well-being and other angles that were mentioned earlier by Sarah. So it is very large in scope. It's a very big project. It's a 5-year programme running till 2025 with the current funding, but key bits will be adopted for at least 10 years after that by us and our partners as well. So what we're trying to do is take a holistic approach and focus on connection with urban nature, studying urban nature, and creating space in our towns and cities for nature. So there are programmes, each of these bullet points is one of the key programmes we have. So a lot of work with our colleagues here and elsewhere with family programmes, schools, working with teachers to build their wildlife ID, wildlife survey skills, for example, to build their confidence and to run with kind of science investigations around their local nature in their classes. We'll be putting together over the next 12 to 18 months or so a national schools challenge, where it's challenging, haven't quite fixed the age group yet, but I think it's 11 to 12-year-olds, challenging them in schools to develop their own science research projects around their local nature or environment. And that will feed into some citizen science programmes we run across the UK in 2022 and 23 at least, which will be based on the questions and the areas where we can pull together some positive action that best supports that youth voice. We are working with the Youth Council and our own youth groups as part of this. Something we're quite keen to do throughout the programme, and working with partners like the Prince's Trust and others, is to give opportunities for underserved audiences, young people in the UK, to get into careers within nature in an urban context. So whether that's through volunteering programmes that are very much career development focused, apprenticeships, traineeships, and some short courses through the Prince's Trust. And there'll be more on that through our website over the next couple of months. If you just type in Urban Nature Project, Natural History Museum, that's our holding webpage. But the bit I want to spend the rest of the talk really focusing on, I think is perhaps hopefully of most interest to you in the room today and online, the programmes we have around the science, which includes citizen science, and also a quick update on how we're developing our landscape here around the museum, potentially at Tring as well, actually, but certainly here at South Kensington. So I'm going to switch to those, but if you do have questions about the other themes, then grab me later and I can put you in touch with a relevant colleague. So it's a busy slide, but it's going to be up there for quite a while, I should say. So the science programme is really looking at how we can work as a sector to better understand the composition, the dynamics of wildlife within our urban areas across the UK. Compared to, so obviously, audience like yourselves, we know quite a lot about London's wildlife. compared to the better studied nature reserves outside of towns and cities, some of the other arable landscapes, for example, we know comparatively little about London or about the other urban conurbations in particular in the UK in terms of the species they support, in what conditions, in which habitats, how are those species dynamics changing, what are the factors shaping the ecological functioning and the health, if you like, of that wildlife, and where are the key data gaps. So we'll be working with organisations like the Wildlife Trust, London Wildlife Trust and others, to really plug some of those evidence gaps around the species we have, how and why they're changing, and how different forms of habitat, different, I guess, scales and types of habitat within urban areas support different compositions, different suites of species. And then how we can tailor those sites most effectively so they work both for us as people, which is incredibly important in urban context, of course, but also for the nature. So we can really look at fine-tuning our urban nature conservation, I guess, is one way of looking at it. I tend to think of things around nature positive futures rather than conservation, so we're not always conserving strongly functioning habitats. So the way we're doing this is through scientific methods, looking at kind of standard conventional biological recording, visual monitoring programs like many of us in the room already do. But then looking at how we can take some of the slightly more academic methods, like looking at DNA within the environment, looking at ecoacoustics, so soundscapes, to build a far richer picture of the composition of the ecosystems we have in urban areas. Focus on a few core study sites initially. So the museum is one of these, but also have partner sites. We're working with at the moment to see exactly what kind of monitoring recording we do, but at Cardiff Museum, Glasgow, Ulster, for example, Newcastle University, across the UK, and some smaller pocket parks. There's a piece of work we started last week, week before last, just starting to work with those landholders actually in London who own small garden squares that are accessible in different levels to public audiences. Some of them are closed off. The whole group of landowners who are really interested in learning more about the wildlife they have on those kind of enclosed parks and how it can be better supported. So we're doing some baseline research to look at what biodiversity is supported beyond the birds and butterflies, which they monitor already. Then decided to look at how we can apply that to boost that wildlife as part of the habitat mosaic we have across London in this case. The data we gather will all feed into some toolkits which will be driven by sector need. So we're really interested in the kinds of science-led, evidence-based tools that would help community groups through to professional organisations, conservation groups across the UK, but in this case within London, this audience, to better monitor or manage the biodiversity you have. So if there are unanswered questions you have around the wildlife on your sites, for example, or there are key data gaps that the kind of mass scale biodiversity monitoring that we're doing through DNA and so on can fill, then please get in touch. We have our own research questions to look at, but we're really keen that this is a sector-wide conversation so that any science we develop or the practical digital tools we develop, for example, around wildlife identification and so on, best fit that need of others as well as just our own. So get in touch anytime over the next 4 years. We've been working on this for quite some time. The idea being that we can generate and share very high volumes of biodiversity data and supporting environmental data as well, so air chemistry and so on, soil chemistry, water chemistry, that others can then use. So you've got a very strong opportunity, a genuine opportunity to shape the data we gather, so it fits your needs as well. And I guess from my own personal research perspective, what I'm really interested in is how we can build a much richer understanding of the full composition of the wildlife we have in our towns and cities in different scenarios, so parks, ponds, and so on. So that's the microbial communities all the way through to the vertebrates. So something that's saying it's quite stark from an ecological research perspective is so much of our modelling within urban areas in particular around the dynamics of wildlife, so much of our conservation is based on just a very few species groups. There are thousands of other species out there that we don't monitor in the same way because we can't actually resource-wise, potentially can through DNA and acoustics. So how does knowing more about the different species, or does knowing more about the whole suite of species actually inform our conservation going forward? That's the area of the research that I'm personally most passionate about. So if anyone has that interest, please get in touch. So a whole lot going on. Over the coming years, hopefully we can start to share the data. We'll be running various workshops looking at what are the key issues in urban nature conservation urban nature ecological research, for example, as well, and looking at whether there are new networks of kind of could be a data sharing network, it could be an idea sharing network, colleagues groups we could set up across the UK. So there's plenty of opportunity to jump in. So just to give a little bit of context as to what we have actually done. So we're literally just starting a delivery phase of this program. But something we've been trialing this is in September for 2 weeks, is the idea of whether we can have a seasonal visual recording scheme running, different topics, different seasons that we can run for a number of years, very much aimed at people who are new to biological recording. It's not exclusive, anyone can join in, but really trying to support people to understand that actually observing wildlife is a thing, and here are the benefits of doing it, whether that's the well-being benefits of being outdoors, or whether it's the use the data can have, for example, going forward. So we trialled this with Tyler and Berry from the Spider Recording Scheme, just to see how it worked. In September, my colleagues ran this. And it certainly seems to be a good way, just through social media this was, of bringing in people that certainly hadn't used iNaturalist, which is a recording platform we use for this. So an awful lot of new members to that. And an awful lot of data coming from areas where Spider Recording Scheme folk haven't been out to, certainly recently. So a number of range extensions for different taxa are being shown. And I think Thailand's most excited about the green mesh weaver, which is a species that I think was primarily the kind of Thames corridor until relatively recently, but spreading out across the UK. And he was quite surprised to find a number of different range extensions from what is quite a small data set of biological records. So it's something we'll be trialing, and we'll be following people through this process to see the skills they're gaining, for example. Are they enjoying it? Are they becoming, we can't track the lifetime recorders, but are they becoming more engaged in biological recording, for example, going forward? So any ideas or any interest on species groups or that you might be interested in us working together to record during different seasons, then please get in touch. And just quickly to flag, citizen science runs all the way through this. So one of the ways we're working with different government agencies and others to fill the data gap, if you like, around urban biodiversity is looking at what's the role of, in a very broad sense, citizen science, particularly for audiences beyond the recording community. So I appreciate we don't always identify citizen scientists ourselves. So just to flag, there's a project coming out as part of the natural capital and ecosystem assessment work that DEFRA are leading on quite soon, which is looking at how we can use DNA approaches. So take a water sample from back garden ponds, skimming through all the DNA in there from, again, the microbes, pathogens, all the way through to any vertebrates we find, just to get a picture of what's using our garden ponds and what kind of a ecosystem resource they are across the UK. So 3 pilot areas, one of which is London. So if anyone has a garden pond or a pond in a small pocket park or something like that, potentially on a small nature reserve, that could fit in as well. They're interested in, and if you're interested in being involved, then get in touch. I think we're looking at about 50 ponds in London. So I think it's probably about 150 ponds overall, just as part of this pilot. If this works, if we're gathering useful data and it's a rewarding experience for everyone involved, then we'll run this more formally next year as a much bigger program. So, I'm sorry, there's a camera up there, so we'll share these slides anyway. So just to finish off, so there's a whole lot of science and education going on through the program, which over coming months we'll drip feed more information out on. Just to flag, many of you will be aware that as part of this work, and actually the start of this work was looking at how we can better develop our sites, the gardens around the museum here. And we do actually have 5 acres of land around the museum here in South Kensington, an acre of which is the current wildlife garden, a beautiful little spot in the corner. So we've been looking at how we can develop our gardens to really support the narrative of generating an understanding for our visitors of the evolution of life on Earth, the fact of shaping the wildlife around us, our role within this, and the role we genuinely, I believe, have to play as individuals and communities going forward to provide that future where the planet's a safe place for us and nature. So I'll be around over lunch. I may have some poster boards out there if I get them set up in time, but come and chat to me about the garden designs if you're interested in more detail. Just to say that this is the exhibition road view. So if you came through the tube tunnel, because it was raining heavy, wasn't it? You probably popped up through a tube tunnel earlier. We're just in the corner of the building here. This will, as you move through here towards the main entrance of the museum, it will really tell the story of the evolution of life on Earth through time. By the time you get to the main steps, you're in the current Anthropocene period. Then as you move around the rest of the building, it really encourages you to explore your role in supporting nature going forward through contemporary urban biodiversity. So expanding the wildlife garden out by we're still toying with the designs, but probably doubling, if not tripling, the size of the existing wildlife garden as part of this work. This is a picture of the Darwin Centre courtyard, which, if any of you have seen that part of the building, it's kind of a concrete amphitheatre at the moment. We're greening that area and looking at studying the different positive interventions we can make to see what works in terms of supporting different forms of biodiversity. And there'll also be a teaching centre out there as well, so we can really scale up both our training offer, whether that's through schools or for adult education, but it'll also be a hub where naturalists like yourselves can book it out for free to run your own training courses. So this won't be built for a couple of years yet, be 2023 onwards, but hopefully it can build our capacity for training in natural history going forward. So I won't go into detail on this slide because I'm conscious of time, but just to say, as part of the work, we have the wildlife garden, which is traditionally monitored. So quite a bit of ad hoc recording, a lot of structured monitoring, pretty much all visual monitoring at the moment. Although for the past 2 years, we've also been looking at DNA-based studies as well, just analysing the data. Going forward, we'll be developing the whole of our land around the museum into a really in-depth urban biodiversity and environment study site. So bringing in these other techniques as well, which I won't go through in detail now, as I said, but different methods to build that richer understanding of wildlife and share that with our public audiences. That's some work that's ongoing at the moment, but if you're interested in the kind of data we can gather through that, along with the social data we can gather from our audience actually by chatting to them as they come through, then please get in touch, because the idea is this is all open, it's all collaborative, and we shape the science that we support to where it has the greatest interest and needs. So that's rattled through a lot. I'm going to shut up now. To say thank you, slides will be shared, so some contact details on there. Please get in touch with any questions and look out for the results over the next few months, because we're finding so much more in the museum's gardens than we thought was there, even though we've recorded it for 25 years. We have many, many hundreds more species coming through in the DNA. They're obviously actively living there that we just hadn't picked up before through visual observation. So hopefully some exciting results coming soon. So I will leave it there and say thank you very much. I will hand over to Matthew, I believe. He's going to be talking about stag beetles and Londons.